Hi, welcome to Hard Copy, coming to you from our studios in Abuja. I am Terry Ikumi. Our focus tonight is on the electricity sector. Now, power supply is still undoubtedly one of the biggest challenges facing Nigeria, despite the huge amounts that have been pumped into the electricity sector. The Nigerian electricity supply industry, NESI, has undergone fundamental changes over the past few years, following government reform programs reputed to be one of the most ambitious privatization exercise in the global power industry. But despite the privatization process, consumers insist that power supply has either been too epileptic or they are overbuilt by a system known as estimated billing, introduced by the distribution companies for non-metered customers. Now, another major point of worry for electricity consumers in Nigeria is the lack of meters and ultimately inadequate electricity supply. The PHCN as a company was unbundled into 18 companies, 6 generating companies, 1 transmission company, and 11 distribution companies. But currently, the federal government owns 100% of the transmission company, 20% equity in the generation companies, and 40% equity in the distribution companies. Years after the federal government sold its electricity generation companies and distribution companies to private owners under the 2005 Electric Power Sector Reform Act, the challenge of inadequate electricity supply remains, with the distribution companies even threatening to quit and expressing willingness to resell the power assets at discounted rates due to what they claim to be financial shortages. Well, tonight on Hard Copy, we look at the electricity sector from the point of view of the distribution companies, DISCOs. My guest is the General Manager, Corporate Communications of the Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, Mr. Oyebode Fadipe. Welcome to Hard Copy.
Thank you very much. Good evening, viewers.
Let's set the ball rolling by you giving us, taking us through the operations of the DISCOs.
Well, that's a rather big one. Otherwise, I should be speaking for Abuja Distribution Company. But all the same, there is similarity of functions. Or we perform the same function at the distribution level. First of all, let me start by saying that the value chain is made up of the gas supplier, and then you have the generating companies, you have the transmission company, like you rightly said, is still 100% owned by the federal government, and then the distribution companies. Of course, we are playing at the downstream end, or the last leg of the quartet. Essentially, our responsibility is to wheel electricity to the homes of customers. Now, whether at domestic use, by which I mean that in your various homes, or at industrial level for production and stuff like that. Most of the time, companies come through us. There are very few companies that will take power supply at the 132 voltage level. So essentially, what we do in distribution is to bring power supply to the homes of people, to the offices of people, and then maybe for a certain level of production, manufacturing, and things like that.
We're trying to focus on your view, your point of view,
yes,
of the electricity in the electricity sector. From your point of view,
yes,
do you think that over the years, distribution companies have been as effective as they were set out to be?
If you do a comparative analysis of what was and what is now, I think there has been a substantial departure from what was. I concede very quickly that we have not gotten to where the customers want us to be. We have not gotten to where the nations want us to be. Even the DISCOs themselves will admit that they have not gotten to where they want to be. But in terms of where we are coming from, I think there is a substantial departure. I dare say that even before I came, not too long ago, the Senate Committee on Privatization visited Abuja Electricity Distribution Company, and they were kind enough to acknowledge the fact that there has been an improvement in performance of Abuja Electricity Distribution Company.
That leads me to ask, why does it appear as though the level of improvement or performance doesn't cut across all the other DISCOs?
It will depend on what is happening in each location. Every location has its own peculiar situation. Again, like I said, I won't be able to speak for all DISCOs, but I also have snippets of information here and there. Now, one of the peculiar challenge we have with Abuja Electricity is that we still have this host community challenge in certain parts of our franchise area. Our franchise area is the Federal Capital Territory, Kogi State, Niger State, and Nasarawa State. Our customers in Niger State hold the view that because there are power stations there, they must be treated, must be given the host community treatment. No issue about that. But that in itself presupposes that we don't appreciate the whole content of the privatization. Federal government in its wisdom said, okay, look, for us to be able to move the power sector forward, let us divest part of our equity, which is a fundamental thing. Now, the investor who has brought his money to say, okay, let us ramp up performance in electricity supply, will also expect a return on investment. So if you say that because you are the host community, therefore you should be giving certain concessions, those concessions must also align with the investment of the investor. So that challenge is there. I know as well that in Port Harcourt, in Lagos, where you have two discos, Ikeja and Eko, in Ibadan, in Yola, in Kaduna, everybody has his own peculiar challenges. So you will not expect that the level of performance will be equal. Yes, all of us started the race the same day, but the level of performance will not be equal. It's impossible to expect that kind of thing.
Very well, the issue of epileptic power supply,
yes.
Is it a distribution or generation problem?
Now, I'm going to be very reluctant accepting that adjective, that qualifier that you are using.
Which is it? Which one?
Epileptic. Now, yes, I agree that its power supply does not run smoothly 24/7. But that essentially is also as a result of so many things that are associated with this. Let us take the foundation, for instance. The basis, the beginning of electricity is the gas. Gas is denominated in dollars, even though we have access to it in this country by the grace of God. But it's denominated in dollars. It therefore means that anything the gas supplier prefers to sell is gas in dollars. Anything that happens to the foreign exchange will immediately affect the gas. Now, by the time you are moving gas from that point, from the supplier's point to the generating stations, of course, there are issues that are involved in it. Now, our generation, whether we like it or not, and I know very clearly that Nigerians have come to terms with one fact, that generation is not sufficient. Federal government has also come to terms with that fact, and that's why the Honorable Minister of Power Works and Housing has talked about incremental power. And let's give it to them. I'm not a spokesman for government. I don't work for government. But I know clearly that as an industry player, government has taken deliberate steps to see that there is an improvement beyond what it met on ground.